Minimalists.
Life pockets. I'd love to know how you deal with guilt when you do slip up. I've stopped unnecessary material purchases, but sometimes I cave and make spontaneous purchases, which then led to guilt. How do you react to this?
You know what's funny about this is
I chew my nails. That's how I react to all my guilt.
well, the framing of the question is fascinating, right? Because she says here that I've stopped unnecessary material purchases, but sometimes I make unnecessary material purchases. and like there's a weird sort of denial here, right? And what role does denial play in guilt?
Yeah. Can I tell you a story from Ireland that I think fits with this? This guy goes to this bar every week. This guy Seamus, right? And he always orders 4 pints of beer, right? So always orders 4 pints and drinks 4 pints of Guinness. Bam. Does this every week. One week he comes in and he orders 3 pints of Guinness. And the barman's pouring the Guinness. Says, Seamus, he says, you always buy 4 pints of Guinness. Never ask why. Now suddenly it's 3 pints of Guinness. What's going on? And Seamus says, he says, to be honest with you, he says, I have 2 brothers and a father, and they're all in different parts of the world. And so every week, little ritual, I order a pint for all of us, a drink in honour of all of us, right? That's beautiful. But he said, very sad to say, my father passed away, so I'm just having a drink now for me and for my 2 brothers. Oh, that's a beautiful ritual. Sorry for your loss, right? So 6 months goes by, and then Seamus comes in and he orders 2 pints of Guinness. And the barman feels a bit guilty and says, like, I don't want to pry, but has something happened to one of your brothers? And Seamus says, no. He says, no. He says, doctor's orders. I've had to stop drinking. Right? Now, so that, I think that's a structure that we're all in a way. We can sometimes like be talking about environmental issues while making an unnecessary journey or whatever. Is that we bizarrely do the very activity that we're disavowing. So that's very
Oh, that's so good.
That is good. So if I'm talking to life pockets here, the thing is, what you're saying is, I'm imperfect.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge
Which we all
that
are. Yeah.
You are imperfect.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
No, and so, of course, you might slip up, or you might just realize the purchase you made, to be more charitable here, you thought might be necessary or value adding in a way, was not. It did not accomplish the thing that you wanted. Now, you can, of course, set some boundaries up beforehand to help you make better decisions going forward, right? You know, there's simple rules you can set, like what we call the 30-30 rule. It's basically like if something costs more than $30, wait 30 hours. And it at least gives you some time to reflect, and you realize in that time, like, oh, the thing I thought I needed, I don't actually need and probably won't get much value from.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to abstain from that. We have this thing, 6 questions asked before buying, but one of those questions is this the best use of this money? Because money is a resource that is not unlimited, at least not for most of us. And so if I have $100 and I can afford to buy this $100 thing, is that the best use of this $100? Or would I get more value from spending that $100 in a different way? And so there's some questions I think you can ask before you make the purchase. But if you are in that position now where you have made the purchase, it's a sunk cost, and you're going to have to move on because you can continue to carry that guilt with you in perpetuity, but I don't think it's going to serve you much if you continue to cling to it.
That's true. And you could, in light of the conversation we've had, is also go, oh, that guilt that I'm feeling, that's a sign of my freedom. Because like in terms of this whole conversation, it's like saying that what was that person's name? Sorry.
Life Pockets.
Life Pockets. What a nice name.
LP.
LP's experiencing is this being between who they are and who they would like to be, right? And we all live between who we are, who we'd like to be, what we have, what we'd like to have. And that experience of guilt is that experience of one's freedom. And if you can just shift your experience of that, you can go, yeah, you might want to change or whatever, but that shows that you're human, you know? So I go like, so you snap at me and say then you feel guilty. So you feel guilty because you snapped at me. If we're in a relationship and I say to you, it's okay, like I know you're stressed, that's a forgiveness of debt. So the lack and the guilt that you're feeling, the debt that you're feeling is now dissipated. And then that actually leads to an improvement in one's behavior. So that's the kind of logic that I'm talking about. And this is displacement as well. So displacement is where you take anger that's generated in one place and you put it somewhere else. So a really obvious example is if you have a child and you're having to get up and look after the kid all the time, you can get annoyed at your kid.
Yeah.
But you can't be annoyed at your kid because your kid's a baby. So you shout at your partner.
Right.
Everyone knows that happens.
Yeah.
And so your partner goes like, oh, you're displacing, or you had a tough day at work, you can't shout at your boss or you'll get fired. So you come home and you shout at your partner.
Right.
And your partner, if it's a healthy relationship, will go, oh yeah, that's displacement. They had a difficult day at work. They accept it.
That takes a lot of maturity to get there, though.
Well, yeah, it does. But
Yeah.
but if you have that and then they forgive you, as in they go, oh, it's okay. Listen, I know you've had to get up 3 times tonight and feed the kid. So the fact you shouted at me, I completely understand. Don't even give it a second's thought. You experience the forgiveness. The guilt diminishes, and you will probably, improve the behavior over time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best way to get your partner to that maturity level is you start to do it yourself. Because I know with like Mariah and I I don't know, it's like the silliest things. Like I'll start talking about, I don't know, like masks, for example. And I'll say, like, I could see why people are at this place where they're upset with masks. And then Mariah will say, this isn't an actual argument. I'm just trying to think of an example. And then she'll say something like, yeah, but people shouldn't be at that place. And people should just wear their masks. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to say that here's why they got, and we start to like butt heads on a silly subject. Like I'll stop and I'll be like, all right, like this is like we're getting angry for no reason about this subject that has nothing to do with our immediate lives.
Yeah, well, that's what he was talking about earlier with the creationism, where someone that you respected came along and said, "Hey, this doesn't matter." And sometimes I think we can do that in our own relationship.
Yeah, and like,
right?
and so when you step up to be that mature person, it makes your partner want to be that mature person also.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we used to do a thing called the Evangelism Project, where I took a group of people to be evangelized by a different, say, religion. And the idea was not so much that you were evangelized by the other religion, but partly that you saw yourself through their eyes. You would see yourself better and you'd be evangelized, you'd be drawn to be better. But what happened in that interaction is in being open to letting the other speak into your life, they become more open to you speaking into their life, and the whole thing breaks open. So I imagine, say you're Republican, you're Democrat. Traditionally, if you're Republican, you're trying to convince him to be a Republican. If you're a Democrat, you're trying to convince him to be Democrat.
Sure.
But in this different environment, imagine you came in and you said, I'm not going to try and make you a Republican. I think you can make me a better Republican. There's something I'm missing because I don't know why you're not a Republican. Like, you're just this hippy dippy whatever, I think, right? But actually, maybe there's something I'm missing. So tell me what I'm missing, and vice versa. You say, well, I can't imagine why you'd be a Republican. I can't, like, that's a terrible thing. But am I missing something? Maybe you can make me a better Democrat. Yeah. And weirdly now, instead of trying to make each other the opposite, the other person becomes an instrument of your further transformation, an instrument of your further conversion, and then both sides kind of move forward. And there's one last thing on that, is that I do think that the majority of times that I see people falling for each other and really being drawn to each other, one factor I see is very important, is that often they feel that they can say anything to the other, that the other can bear the weight of them and forgive them. So forgiveness is such a powerful thing that sometimes to meet someone who says, yeah, I can take your lack, I can cope with it, and I can forgive your lack, because I know that's where this desire happens and transformation happens.